Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. Today is a unique day because I'm really honored and privileged to welcome His Excellency President Vincente Fox Quesada from Mexico. President Fox, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh. Congratulations for your program. It's great quality of messages that come along that will serve people in their leadership and in their effectiveness
Thank you,
in their
sir.
work. So thank you very much for your invitation. Very glad to be here with you.
Thank you, sir. President Vicente Fox was the president of Mexico from 2000 to 2006. He is the former president of Coca-Cola Company, Mexico and Latin America, and he's the founder of Centro Fox, which is training future leaders. So, sir, let me start by asking you a question which I'm sure you've been asked many times. What was your motivation to move from a very successful corporate job to politics and the president of Mexico?
Well, my life has been a search looking for happiness. The shortcut to happiness is being for others. So I did start my career in the Coca-Cola Company that gave me some rewards on my search for that happiness, which was, at least I was creating jobs. I was selling a drink, but I was creating jobs. And that held my enthusiasm for some years, plus the success I had with it, because I started right at the bottom. I started on a route truck selling Coca-Cola in mom and pop stores and whatever retail outlets were there. So that had enough 15, 16 years after when I became president of the company for Mexico and Latin America. But I was still feeling that emptiness in my heart. I was not getting the return that I learned in my Jesuit education that was all along from basic school to university. So that's the main reason for that change. So I renounced to the Coca-Cola Company and came back to the ranch, to family activities, where I have seen always poverty very close, where I had my friends that I met when I was born in this ranch and played with them. I saw them leaving Mexico looking for their dream, and their dream was to go as migrants to United States and make a living. And so they came one day, 12-year-olds, and told me, Vicente, we're going for the Americas. We're going to United States. And very sadly, with tears in the eyes, I understood that I did have the opportunities and they did not have them in Mexico. So that became a challenge to me. How could I extend opportunities? How could I also make those kids more prepared for the challenge of leadership? So that was why I did change back to small business here at the ranch for 15 years, managing some of the companies that the family had here. And finally, I decided, same thing, not enough here. I'm not getting the return that I'm waiting in life to get. So I decided to move to politics.
Wonderful. And sir, you were the first opposition party candidate to be elected president. Can you reflect on your time in office and some of the accomplishments you are very proud of?
Well, first of all, is the same fact of winning the presidency of Mexico in election 2000. So that by itself was very rewarding. To become president of Mexico where I started some few years before, 10, 12, that I worked first to become congressman, and I made it. Then I renounced to Congress and wanted to be governor of my state, and I did it. Although I had a problem there on the first time I ran for governor in the state of Guanajuato, that there was a huge fraud, precisely the one I was fighting for in trying to get rid of the PRI, which lasted for 71 years in power in Mexico. So I did run twice. After that, I had that big fraud on the election. I ran again. I won 3-1, and I became governor of the state of Guanajuato. Very powerful state, economically speaking, very powerful state, agriculture and food output state, very strong. So I was governor for the state, and then I decided to resign again before the end of my term, and I ran for president of Mexico. And I became president of Mexico the 2nd of July of year 2000.
Correct.
Now, so that by itself, I was very proud of. What other accomplishments? I would say, number one, to break with the inertia that this low democratic way of running Mexico into a very democratic Mexico, very federalist, decentralizing power, and so on and on. So the fact itself to end up with those 71 years. Second, I would say being exactly close to the poor. So I developed a system of health nationally that we called Seguro Popular, that would give opportunity to every single Mexican of access to a doctor, to medicine, to surgery or hospital, and finally to a pension. So those 4 things, I made a system, Seguro Popular, that would go after the 45% of Mexicans that at that time didn't have at all any health services.
Amazing.
So it was a great thing to accomplish, and through that, 100% of Mexicans today have access to this health initiatives. Finally, the third one, I would say, to become very international and competitive economy in Mexico. So I ran around the world attracting foreign investment. I was very fortunate to get General Motors automobile company to set their installations, their factories in Mexico. So we detonated a huge cluster of automobile manufacturing, which we have in Mexico. Just, for example, within our region here in Center Mexico, we have 11 state-of-the-art manufacturing cars in Mexico. And all of them very huge. We have Nissan, we have Toyotas here, we have Kia from Korea, we have BMW from Europe, we have Mercedes-Benz from Europe, we have General Motors, we have Ford Motor Company, we have Chrysler Corporation. So everybody's here, and it's a huge cluster manufacturing automobiles. That's something that I started, and fortunately, it worked extremely well.
Fabulous. And so what would you consider to be some of the biggest challenges Mexico faces today?
Well, the one we faced at that time was crime. And we accomplished a crime rate of 9 crimes per each 100,000 inhabitants. So 9 out of 100,000. That's an international indicator of how is your situation in relation to security, to crime. So being below 10 is a good standard. Being above 10 begins to get complicated. My time, I reduced it down to 9 francs per each 100,000 inhabitants. Today, we're 36.
Wow.
So it's more than 300%. So that would be the main problem in Mexico today. Crime, violence provoked by cartels, which is this association of criminals in groups and handling drugs, moving drugs to the U.S. market. And they have become very, very competitive in their capacity to fight government and the capacity to convince and force government officials at all levels to participate with them. It has become a huge problem. The origin of it is the huge consumer market that we have in United States. So as long as there is that huge demand for drugs in United States, there will be Mexican cartels working to supply that. Today, the main case of product is fentanyl, which is a new drug that has become, after the rest of them, morphine, marijuana, cannabis, and else, heroin. So today, that will be number one problem. And then number two, I would say that Mexico, because of ourselves, because of our capacities, because of our lack of interest to grow and do things professionally, I'm talking about general population in Mexico, we have always moved on standards of mediocrity. So we have not been able to put together a system that is successful, that moves the country ahead. We do have all the opportunities, absolutely all of them. We have this huge market in United States and Canada. We have our North American trade agreement working, which is associated with those two great economies. So Mexico's working with United States and Canada on building the strongest economic bloc in the world. Mexico is not the little guy there.
Correct.
We do have our very relevant participation on this association, which is in trading. We, the three of us, we have a trade balance of over $1 trillion.
Correct.
Trillion means $1 million US dollars that we exchange every year. By far, the largest trade balance in the world.
Correct.
Over and above China's, which is very strong, their relationship also with United States and Canada. Well, Mexico and United States and Canada, we are the largest. So we do have the opportunities and the tools to move ahead with a successful economy, competitive economy. But we have not had the governments. Right now, we have a lousy government, which is this new trend of populism and demagoguery. So these candidates come up to power by promising that they will solve all the problems in the world, that they will bring success and development to society. And they've been a failure, but still they lie, they present things different. They have fake news all day, and they keep on enthusiasming people wrongly doing, because the results, the bottom line is not there. So I think that's a new challenge to the world. We have about 60 nations now that move on this sphere of populist demagogue governments, and that are being a new wave of doing things which is not socialism, which is not social democrats, which is not center philosophies, which is not even right side philosophy. It's no philosophy behind. It's just smart people that come to power through democracy, and then once they are in power, they manage to re-elect themselves to stay there almost for life. So that will long answer to your question.
No, you're absolutely right, Sab. But just to continue from what you told me about the $1 trillion, I wanted to ask you that 80% of exports of Mexico and 50% of imports of Mexico are with the US. Do you see the Mexican economy diversifying itself globally, or do you see it very dependent on USA for some time?
Well, on one side, we have such a huge market in the States that we're only participating at figures like 25, 30% of the US market. So we still have a long way to go.
Correct.
Number two, we have this near shore. We're right by the side of the United States, northern border of Mexico, right on the border. We have this maquiladora system that accounts for thousands or millions of jobs, very competitive industries, because they have these advantages. They have the advantage of NAFTA, no taxes, no trade taxes. Number two, they have the advantage of bringing the raw materials from the East, from India, from China, from Japan, from Korea. They come to Mexican ports on the Pacific side of the sea, and then they come through Mexico and they are taken by trucks up north to those maquiladoras. And those maquiladoras manufacture with those ingredients, and then they ship and export to the US market, especially on the West Coast. So it's a very effective, very competitive system that, together with trading agreement, it works fluently. It works very nice. So Mexico is too busy trying to cope with this situation of nearshore trade agreement and closeness to the border. So no time to think about others. So what is happening now is that others are the ones that are coming to Mexico to open their entry to the US market. So yes, some Indian companies are coming, especially in technology base. Some Chinese company in manufacturing are already coming here. The largest automobile manufacturer in Korea, Kia, now just recently opened a new factory here. So it's more a case of those outside coming, looking to set themselves in Mexico, take advantage of the opportunities and the competitiveness they get to go to the largest US market. One factor here would be labor. Labor is a very specific factor. Mexican labor is highly qualified, but also is low paid, very low paid. So makes it very competitive. Even with NAFTA, that we have been so successful, salaries have not been the same. So Mexico needs to push upwards the income that people in Mexico with their quality manufacturing get a better salary. So that maybe will take out some competitiveness out of the Mexican economy, but at the same time will add, by using this specific high quality labor, also will bring in competitiveness to the products that are manufactured in Mexico.
Thank you, sir. The other question I wanted to ask you is that if you look at South and Central America and Latin America, Mexico and Brazil are the two major powers. I would love to get your perspective on what is Mexico doing to be able to continually promote democracy and human rights in your entire continent.
Oh, difficult question, and very interesting question today that takes me back to what I already mentioned.
Correct.
Finally, in Mexico, we never thought it could happen. We have a populist, an ex-populist by the name of Lopez Obrador. So he takes a running economy, a very strong competitive economy, a very international and global economy, and it's almost destroyed it. Even though that mostly is in hands of the private sector, yet he has intervened in most of it, bringing in new rules, bringing in new proposals that don't have a base, that is not structured enough. So now we have a government that fights success and fights private investment and fights private corporations and fights the model we know and we work on in Mexico, which is a market economy, open market economy. We can see that even through NAFTA, through the trade agreement. So he wants to become a Venezuela out of Mexico or a Cuba out of Mexico. So right now we're an impasse. We all, about 45 to 50% of people, middle class, that has been educated on this world, liberal world, competitive world, trading world. We have been educated on that system, and it works extremely well for Mexico and for everybody. And now he's trying to move us to populism, to demagoguery. So for the moment, what we're fighting is to get rid of this guy. These middle classes and this relevant, intelligent people in Mexico. We're trying to fight and get him out of power. And he is working exactly the opposite. He's working to stay in power, maybe to repeat, which would be dangerous in Mexico because we don't have re-election. The Mexican Revolution was done because of that problem.
Correct.
And the outcome of the Mexican Revolution is only one term, no re-election. That was the cry of the Mexican Revolution. So it's a very dangerous, very delicate thing. So Mexico is losing 6 of its very successful years we had in the past by now facing this problem and trying to solve it. And it's linked together with the pandemic. So when this government started, pandemic started. So the whole economy was reframed, was reduced in size, and was weakened in capacity. So now that we would have the opportunity to recuperate with education, with technology, with innovation, and with near-shore activities, we're not doing it. So we're losing 6 years of Mexico's space. So we hope next year we have elections that we can come back to a system that is competitive worldwide, that is global, that is well known in the world, that is very attractive to investment, that is very strong and competitive in education so that we can generate those professionals that this kind of economy needs. And so we're working on that, very busy on that, and we hope we can make it so that we come back to not an ideology, not a philosophy. I even look at India. India doesn't really be a nation of ideologies. It has this extraordinary way of philosophical thinking, of profound thinking, profound evaluation of yourself, profound preparation to get into the arena. I love the Indian Institute of Technology, II. It's fantastic. It's the school that I have seen, and I've been in Harvard, and I've been in Oxford, and I've been everywhere. And I'm very close to Indians in the United States that have complied or built a fraternity out of this IIT alumni. And they invite me for conferences very frequently, and I speak so easy, and so I feel so wonderful when I'm speaking to this kind of people that is competitive, that has aspirations, that wants to grow, that wants to change not only the U.S. economy, but U.S. corporations, but also wants to change India. And they do commit a lot with India, and they do commit a lot with the whole world. Today, in most of the Fortune 500 corporations, we have a lot of this caste, this generation of IITs right there in the heart of the world economy, doing fantastic. Most of those great corporations will be run by a CEO that is Indian. Even my competitive company, Pepsi Cola, is run by an Indian lady doing extremely well. So I admire that situation. You have, let's say, 200,000 people in the United States that have conquered the summit, that have gone way, way up.
Correct.
We have 40 million Mexicans in the United States. We do have small success in the middle of the space, of the economic space, small companies, medium-sized companies, but we don't have those relevant leaders that would be doing a great job for US, but also would be doing a great job for Mexico.
So I've got one more question relating to Mexico, and then I have one question for Centro Fox. And I'm glad you spoke about Indian leaders in America. I would love to get your perspectives as a leader of Mexico about India, and what is the reason we don't have enough business and trade between these two major companies or countries which are so similar culturally?
Okay, we in Mexico admire the greatest of the great leaders, Mahatma Gandhi. With the power of his voice, he changed the world.
Correct.
He defeated the British Empire, and he made out of India a great nation and projected India's nation to a much higher level. So that's part of the ingredients that we need here in Mexico, to be audacious, to take risks, to think big. And we do part of that, but not enough. That's one reason why we're not doing so much with India. Number two, I would say distance. Distance, although today is less of a factor, still is a factor.
Correct.
Moving out of Mexico, going to India, first of all, the cost of tickets is incredible.
Correct.
Very high to move out there.
Yeah.
So, and the busy that we are building our model within the North American region. But distance is very important. Language is very important, although both nations, we understand that at least we would have and we need English.
Correct.
So that we can start moving and trading. I did have an IT corporation associated with Centro Fox. It's a company that is half American and half Indian. As I said, an IT company. And we set that company right here in Centro Fox. And the aspiration was to do what you do with IT in India, to be competitive, to hire thousands of people. The project here was for 6,000 people to be working there. But we couldn't make it. And we couldn't make it because of the distance, because of the language. It didn't work enough. So you don't see many Indian companies or corporations operating in Mexico. India is also so much involved in U.S. economy.
Yeah.
These executives of this company that came to Mexico, which are Indians, most of them, all of them are alumni of IIT. And we just couldn't do it in Mexico, what they've done very successfully in the United States.
Correct.
But we need to find a way of doing it, because this competition between the East and the West is growing and is raising big opportunities for everybody.
Absolutely right.
I think that we have a very strong competitive block of economies in North America, and you have a very strong competitive economies in India, China, Korea, Japan.
Correct.
The day that somebody has envisioned that, the day that India and China put together their own trade agreement and their own agreement to compete with the rest of the world, nobody will be as you. You will be by far the largest economy in the world.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think we should work more the opportunities of have India in Mexico and Mexico in India, as well as with China.
I agree.
We should have Chinese economy here in Mexico, and we don't have it, as well as we don't have the presence of India. And Mexico should be in those two markets.
Well said. So I'm now going to move to Centro Fox. Can you talk a little bit about your post-presidential work and what are some of the causes you're advocating for?
Okay, this search for happiness is endless. So
Correct.
Martha, my wife, and myself decided to go for NGOs, nonprofits, so that we could give and give, understanding that we receive and receive by giving, by doing for others. So we created Centro Fox, which is the first presidential library in Mexico, same libraries as presidents have in the United States. And together with Centro Fox, which is a place of leadership. That's what we do there. That's what we bring in. Up to now, over 750,000 kids have come through Centro Fox to this, from this project or this program, President for the Day. What it means that you must discover your leadership in life. You must understand, like you do in India, who am I? Go within, learn the capacities that you have. Look for your strength within yourself and find out a proposal, find out a objective, find out a purpose. Purpose is a strong, meaningful word that moves people to reach the highest places in the world. So Centro Fox, we tell the kids that come here, you were not born to be poor. You were not born to become a member of the cartels. You were not born to migrate to United States.
Correct.
You were not born to be a gang member. You were born to do great things in your life.
Well said.
And here we're going to tell you how do you do that. We get into this exercise of contents of leadership. What is leadership all about? What is finding your own spiritual character and strength? And then equip them with the tools to become leaders. And it's working pretty well. In a way, we understand that you only need one leader, one name, one face to change the world.
Absolutely.
You don't need massive actions. You don't need institutions. You need just people that is decided to change the world. And you have many of those in India. I wish we would have that many in Mexico. The Steve Jobs, the leaders of Google, the leaders of all this transformation that the world has gone through, the leaders that you have in India. So that's what we try to get, leaders with a strong characteristic, which is compassion. Leaders that are convinced that, yes, you can develop your leadership, but only if you're tied up with compassion, that you really want to do it for yourself and for others. So that's the main reason that Centro Fox exists. We have other two foundations. One is Vamos Mexico, the other one is Crisma. Vamos Mexico is a charitable foundation dedicated to wheelchairs. We done thousands and thousands of wheelchairs at no cost for people, so we give them mobility. We do a lot of nutrition and food programs so that we bring into people in schools or to NGOs and so on and on. We have a program that is a school academic program to develop leadership in NGOs. We have brought thousands of them to train them to how to raise money, how to be competitive, how to manage your foundation, and so on and on. And finally, the third one is Crisma, where we have 350 kids and persons with severe brain damage. So we have checked them in trying to improve their condition and in trying to bring them back to active life, economic, academic, or whatever, even sports. It's a very difficult job there, but one person that we managed to bring them back to society and be active and be productive is a great joy for Martha and myself. It's our return, joy and happiness.
Wonderful. And on that note, President Fox, thank you so much for speaking to me. I have learned so many new things about Mexico, about all the work that has been done in the past. I've really understood what your vision for Mexico is and everything that you are trying to achieve through Centro Fox. Thank you again for everything that you have done for the world and that you are continuing to do for the world. I'm grateful that you
My
found the time
pleasure.
to speak to me. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks to you. Keep doing it. Keep working. Keep pushing. We have to build a better world.
Correct. Well said, sir. Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.